Well, through the time of this program, we are learning more about yesterday's incident at Vancouver International Airport. A hijacking charge has now been laid, and a few details are emerging about the suspect who flew that plane from Victoria to Vancouver. Katie DeRosa is at the Victoria Flying Club, where the plane took off. She joins us now. And Katie, what are we learning about this incident?
Well, we know that 39-year-old Shaheer Cassim has been charged with one count of hijacking. Now, under the criminal code, that constitutes a terrorism offense, and that gives you an idea of why it was treated so seriously yesterday. We know that Cassim appeared in Richmond Court today at 2 p.m. It will remain in custody until his next court appearance, July 22nd. But in terms of the drama of what was happening yesterday, shortly after it was clear there was a hijacking incident around 1 p.m. at the Victoria Flying Club, the NORAD became involved. That's the alliance between military aircraft. So U.S. fighter jets were heading up here. Canadian fighter jets were heading to this airspace. And then they were eventually called off when it was clear that the individual was going to land at YVR and that there was, that I guess they were able to control the aircraft in its descent. But he left around 1:10 here from Victoria. Would have taken about 20 minutes to get to YVR, and then he circled for a bit. So he didn't land until 1:45. But certainly, we know that air traffic control was in contact with other planes around the area, telling them that the airspace was closed until this incident was under control.
Yeah, it's interesting. You mentioned the fighter jets. NORAD telling us, as you point out, that F-15s, so they would have come from the States. We don't have F-15s in Canada, so as you point out, U.S. fighter jets were the primary jets that were involved in this, but before they could intercept the plane had landed in Vancouver. And yeah, there was some reference to CF-18s being able to respond, but they were further away at the time. Okay, so we're not getting a lot of information from official sources on this, so we're getting the information where we can. You've talked to a lot of people. You've also listened to a lot of the air traffic control radio transmissions. What insight are you getting from those?
Well, the air traffic control broadcast was very clear right off the bat that it was a hijacking. They used that word several times. They also, air traffic controllers, used the word some sort of protest. So again, we don't know exactly the kind of messages that were being broadcast, but they used the word protest. And we know that the Victoria air traffic controllers immediately knew something was amiss. The small Cessna 172 did not have, was not clear for takeoff. So they knew right off the bat that aircraft was not allowed to be up in the air, but they knew its flight path. They knew it was heading to YVR, so they were able to communicate that to YVR very quickly, and that's why the YVR air traffic controllers were able to block off the airspace and tell other planes to hold landing until they had that under control. And as soon as that plane did land, that person was met by RCMP and arrested right off the bat.
Yeah, we were just looking at some video of the plane being towed at YVR at Vancouver Airport. You are where that plane was for the beginning of the journey at the Victoria Flying Club, and what have you learned there?
Well, we talked to the president of the Victoria Flying Club. And what he told us, Colin Williamson, and what he told us is that in 80 years of the club being around, nothing like this has ever happened. He says it's shaken people. And here's a bit of what he had to say about the mood at the Flying Club right now.
Pretty nerve-wracking, and so, so after that, everybody, the airspace got shut down. We stopped flying right away, of course. And our people, I'm really proud of them. Everybody really pulled together, hugs and what have you, because it's distressing, because we're like family to each other.
Now, he confirmed that the individual was not a member of the Flying Club, so the only way he would have gotten near a plane is one of two options: to say he wanted a discovery flight, which is a type of flight that individuals can take as a passenger if they want to begin the process to learn to fly, or a commercial flight, which is either a tourism flight or, looking over a scene, I guess, a property of some sort. So that's the only way that he would have been able to get near a plane. The instructor would have had to have the keys, and so we don't know the details of exactly if there was a scuffle, if there was any kind of threats uttered, but somewhere between the instructor checking out the keys and then going to the aircraft, that's where we believe, the hijacking took place, because of course the definition of hijacking is taking over a plane or a car by force. So, but again, we don't know the details of what kind of force, what was said. But again, that word hijacking was clear right off the bat. And again, that is what the criminal charge is.
And let me underscore that for a moment, because I'm sitting here in the studio, so I just printed out the criminal code section on hijacking. I want to read it here. Everyone who unlawfully, by force or threat thereof, or any other form of intimidation, seizes or exercises control of an aircraft with intent. And then it goes on to say what somebody would do after they unlawfully, by force or threat or intimidation, take control of that plane. So you put that together with what the Flying Club told you about how an individual can't just walk into the Flying Club and jump into a Cessna. There'd have to be an instructor there at some point. It suggests to us, though no one's saying this to us out loud, that at some point the person who's charged here forced out the instructor, took the keys from the instructor, did something by threat or intimidation to get control of that plane. The suspect clearly was able to fly the plane, flew it to YVR. We had a witness yesterday who saw this plane circling around YVR in a way that caught the witness's attention but didn't alarm them, and then it landed safely, right? So interesting. Listen, before you go, let's just recap the key points of what we know so far and the key questions that still remain unanswered, Katie.
Well, again, we know that Shaheer Cassim has been charged with one count of hijacking. He will appear or be in custody until a next court appearance, July 22nd. But the big question is the motive, why he did this, and further details around that. Again, as you mentioned, we don't know if there was anyone injured, if there was an instructor who was threatened. That's a big question that is yet unanswered. I also asked the Flying Club if they're changing any safety protocols. They said that very well could be down the line, but it's too early yet. And really just more details from the RCMP as to what happened when they arrested the individual, if anything was said to glean details behind why this exactly happened. And again, any changes down the line that will happen to prevent a similar incident. But what Colin Williamson again said is there were no red flags leading up to the actual hijacking. So presumably if it was an encounter that he wanted to be a passenger, no red flags. And also what Colin Williamson said is that he believes, based on the takeoff and the circling and the safe landing, that this individual did have flying experience, and since he did know how to commandeer and operate the plane safely.
And let me pick up on one of the things you said there in that excellent summary, motive, right? So presumably the authorities now know what the motive is, and presumably they could disclose it, but for some reason they're not disclosing it. We heard, as you pointed out, in the air traffic control transmissions that they described it as some sort of protest about what? In what way was this person protesting? And then here's a key point. Did the officials believe that there was a threat to other aircraft, to the airport, to buildings in Vancouver, or did they believe this was a protester who they simply could wait and talk to and try to de-escalate and have them land safely? We know they did land safely, but as of right now, neither the RCMP nor NAV Canada nor YVR are disclosing at all whether this was seen as a threat or not. Though interesting that NORAD, as you point out, scrambled American fighter jets to head to YVR. Katie, as I pointed out last hour, I know you've talked to people and we're not quite at the point where you can report what the details of that are until we confirm them, but you do have more information and we'll continue to have you follow the story. Thank you very much for the update.
Thanks, Ian.